Hello, this is Grandmacorn, and this is going to be a gift for Paul and Karen for Christmas. And what I'm going to show them is how they use their new Dutch oven to help shape their sourdough loaf. And here we go. We're going to start by mixing our primary ingredients. I've already weighed them, but if you're doing this the first time, you should probably use a scale to weigh them. What we have is 1/3 of a cup of our 90 grams of starter that is, quote, hungry, that is just risen. And I measured this in this cup. You need 4 cups or 520 grams of, this is bread flour. You could have an additional or a substitute 1/2 of a cup with, say, whole wheat flour, but probably no more than that. And we have 1 7/8 cup of filtered water, which I warmed slightly in the microwave to help activate keep our sourdough activated. First thing you do is you add your starter to your slightly warmed water. Here we go, sticky, sticky. You stir it to get a sort of a white, sludgy looking liquid. Just get it all mixed in. Easy, huh? Then you add that to your 4 cups of bread flour. Now here I didn't quite mix it in well enough, but go ahead and be sure you get the entire amount of sourdough starter into your mixture. And then don't forget salt. It calls for 2 teaspoons of sea salt. You could probably just use regular table salt as well. So I'm going to go ahead and add that before I do my mixture. Okay, 1. A little clumpy here. Okay, 2. Then you take a fork or a wood spoon and you mix all your ingredients together. I'd say it takes a couple minutes, you'll know, because you'll have kind of a uniform sort of clump is the best way to describe it. So just bear with me as I make my clump. Probably if I'd had a little bigger bowl, it would have been a little easier, but we're getting there. I think a spoon would be better than a fork, to be honest. That's usually what I find works the best. Try to get all the flour up from the bottom, so at least you've got sort of a mass of something here. Try to make sure I get all the flour up from the bottom. There we go, it's looking pretty good. Okay. There. Okay. Then what you do is you have a wet kitchen towel, and we're going to place that over our first efforted dough, and we're going to come back and check it and do something with it in 15 minutes. Grandmacorn back in the kitchen. It's been 15 minutes since we covered our dough with a wet kitchen towel, and now we're going to start trying to firm it up. So we remove our kitchen towel. It really helps to have just a bowl of warm water to help with sticky hands. And you can see it should have firmed up a little, but it's still very, very, not liquidy, but just sticky. So what we're going to do is do some folding techniques. So you pick up the dough, bring it towards the middle. You can see why you need water. Rotate it 90 degrees. Do it again. And again. You can almost feel it firming up. Now you should probably do this a couple times around before We are then going to let it rest for another 15 minutes and come back and do exactly the same thing. It's kind of fun. You can see that the dough is already sort of firming up just from these few kneading motions. I would say that's enough, so I'm going to cover again with our wet kitchen towel, and we'll come back in 15 minutes. Grandmacorn back again. It's been 15 minutes since we did our first foldovers of our dough, and we're going to do the exact same thing. I still have a bowl of water. You can see kind of it has a little more consistency and than it did the first time, but let's go at it. Keep your hands wet. Basically just do a quarter turn and then do a fold. I'd say 2 or 3 times for once is enough to give it some added elasticity. Okay. Now you can do this even a couple more times every 15 minutes if you want. I'm not going to. I'm going to just do the minimum. And what you then do is turn over your dough and you, let me clean my hands, you either can put a wet towel over it and it's going to sit overnight. Or I tend to use just candy wrap or plastic wrap because that doesn't dry out as I found that kitchen towels sometimes do. So I'm going to go ahead and cover my dough, and it's going to sit here till tomorrow morning. And that's a good, should be 12 to 16 hours. It should rise some, and we'll see what it looks like tomorrow morning, because then we're going to do some more folds, some different folds. See you tomorrow morning. It's Grandmacorn again. It is bright and early the next morning, and I just wanted to show you what the risen dough basically looks like. It won't rise that much, but you can see a little roundedness to the upper surface and some bubbles. And now we're going to do our second set of stretches. So you need your hands to be somewhat damp because it's a little messy. So don't be afraid to get in there. And the idea is we're going to pull it straight up and bring it back down. See this motion? That's a good sign. It's like putty. Bring it back down. Turn it like 90 degrees. Let it sit just a little bit. We're going to do it again. You should start feeling a difference in the texture of the dough. Fun, right? Okay. I can already feel that it feels different. Now this third time, I'm going to gently put it into a parchment-lined bowl for its final raise. And I found almost any parchment works, but you want it to have enough overlap so you can easily pick up the dough after it's risen. And I like this shape because it's a little smaller in the bottom and it'll fit nicely in the Dutch oven when it comes time to bake. So here we go. We'll do our last stretch. See how it's getting just a little bit thicker. Let's go. We'll get it in here. Just try not to get it too much on. See, I caught the outside. There you go. You want to have the edges free so it can do its correct rise. As you can see, it's pretty sticky, but that's okay. That's what it should be. Okay. So, what we do now is we put it in the refrigerator to rise for 1 hour. See you back in 1 hour. It's Grandmacorn again. I forgot one important step, and that is to preheat your oven and make sure that it's almost as hot as your oven can get. So what is suggested is you set your oven temperature to 500 degrees. Sorry. And you put your cast iron pot in there for that entire time, because then it will get nice and hot as well. What I did learn is I needed to put a piece of aluminum foil over the pan before I put the lid on, because the heat tended to form a vacuum that made it difficult to remove the lid. So don't forget to do that. But you can put your cast iron Dutch oven in as the oven is heating up to 500 degrees. Anywhere from, I'd say, half an hour to the entire hour while your dough is doing its final rise in the refrigerator. Now I'll see you in 1 hour. Grandmacorn back. Our dough has risen in the refrigerator for 1 hour. That's going to help firmen up and help it expand in the right shape when it's in the oven. The next thing we have to do before we pull out our cast iron pan is to score the bread so that when it rises, it can rise to its full height and the moisture can escape. So what I have here is some oil that we'll put on our knife that we use to cut the score. That'll help keep it from sticking, as will flour. So I'm just going to sprinkle some flour over the top of this to give it some texture. Then I'm going to oil my knife. And you can really make any design you want. You can just do one, and you kind of come in at an angle. You can see that it's pretty. Don't give up. Just work on getting that cut through. We'll keep going. I think I'm going with just one on this one because it's pretty loose. We'll see if it works because it'll expand. So I don't know how well you can see it, but we've got to do it again. And because we leave it in this container that it's risen, a pan, you don't have to worry about it expanding out as you cut. We'll see how that does. Okay, now be careful. Have somewhere where you can put your hot lid and your container when you take it out, because you want to do this fairly quickly. And what we're going to do is, using the parchment edges, we're going to put it into our Dutch oven, put the lid in, and quickly put it back in the oven. Steam? That's what you want. Just to make it easier, I'm taking off my mitt to get the shaped dough into the pan. And it's all right. In fact, you want the edges of the, it's in the pan. Now we're going to carefully put our mitt back on. Now we put it in the oven for 20 minutes at 500. You could do 475. We'll see how this looks after 20 minutes. We take the lid off. See you in 20.